Well, good morning, everybody. I hope you're ready for another of our amazing webinars. We're going to be going over all the basics of planting today, which will be very fun, from the beginning um, through all the presentation tools, you name it. It's going to be quite fun. We're going to especially try to have fun here. Our air conditioning broke, and it's quite warm today, and so we're having a special experience here, as we all know. But try not to complain because it is beautiful weather. But anyway, uh, reminding everyone, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of questions on this. Both myself and Jake are here to answer questions, so do try to type those questions in on the Q&A box on the left. Not so much in the chat box on that bottom right. So feel free with any questions. I'm sure there's going to be things where Amanda might go a little too fast for you if you're trying to follow along. That's quite fine. Just type in any questions and we'll get them answered and get them over to her. But that all being said, I will hand this over to Amanda.
Well, thank you, Jeremiah, and thank you to everybody for joining us today to have a look at our incredible planting tools. Many of you watching may be in the situation of just starting out with land effects, or you may have even used it for a while but are wondering if you're really using things correctly. There's always room to improve, and today we're going to cover all the basic tools and workflows that you're going to need to know in order to start your project off right in land effects. So basically, going over what we're going to be doing today, we're going to start off at the very beginning, like Jeremiah said, with creating a project and making sure that it's done correctly so that your database is well organized. Then next, we'll move on to adding a plant to the project and the basic plant preferences that you'll need to start and set up and start with. And we'll cover some basic preferences that you really need to set for your first project, especially. When we'll then go into placing plants into your plan and the many ways that you can do that, and move into the design tools that you'll find the most helpful, and finally get into the really fun presentation tools. So it's going to be a nice flowing sequence that you'll be able to follow for especially your first project. And if you've been doing a lot of projects, kind of reevaluate your current workflow to see if maybe it could improve or maybe be a little bit better and smoother, so that you definitely don't face any problems down the line or have to do any edits down the line. Okay, so before we get into our amazing world of color and 3D, you need to start off on the right foot. So creating your project correctly is important and can save you a lot of headache down the road. Like I said, the most important rule is to always create a new project for each drawing package. So here I have a brand new drawing that I've started. And I've already XREF'd in my base to start planting on top of. You can see this is in an XREF, and I've done this on a clean base. We have a few webinars. Definitely recommend you check out immediately after watching this one if you haven't already, either our sheet setup or metrics sheet setup webinars. We recommend going through both of them because they do follow slightly different workflows, but that will show you how to start off with a nice clean drawing with your XREF placed into the background so that you can plant on top of it. You do not want to start planting on top of a consultant's drawing. You want to XREF that consultant's drawing into your clean base and start from there. So with that done, we need to go ahead and before we even start planting, we need to start our project. So what I'm going to do is go into FX Admin up here in my ribbon. If you don't have the ribbon, you can find that by typing, going into our documentation on our website and searching for ribbon, and you'll find the step-by-step directions on getting this. Definitely recommend going towards the ribbon. I know a lot of people are hanging on to the toolbars. I was one of them. I have converted, and I can say that I really, really like it so far. So going into here, we're going to go into our projects so that we can set a project to this drawing. So I'm going to go ahead and click that. And you'll probably have, if you've been doing this for a while, you'll probably have a lot of projects in here or a few. Again, the basic rule is if you're starting a new drawing, start a new project. What you don't want to do is to choose one of these projects that you've used before and say, oh, that would be really great for this project too. I'm going to use all the same plants. Let me just use that project over again. I'm going to stop you right there. That's not a good idea. What you want to do is start a new project, and we'll go over the steps on how you can get those plants and information into the new project from the old one. But what you don't want to do is use the old one, because that's going to cause problems with the other drawing that may be referencing that. So going ahead, we're going to start a new project, and we're going to give it a number. I'm just going to name it something here. And we'll call this nice little community center drawing that we're going to be working on. You can select a template here if you've set one up. I haven't, and I tend not to use this. I tend to like to use the import button, and we'll go over that one. But if you do have a project that you want to be you want to set this project based on, and you want all the plants and all the details and all the reference notes in this project as well, you can go through the process of setting up a template. We have a lot of documentation again on that on our website that you can look. That's a bit more of an advanced workflow, so we won't be covering it in this webinar. But we'll move on, and you'll definitely want to make sure that you're using the right preference set. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just choose this one. You might have, if this is a clean install, you're going to have just an imperial and metric for you to choose from, and choose the one that you're going to be working in. And I'm going to say OK. And it automatically opens up my project manager with my new project. I can put a description in here if I like on my project, just to give anybody accessing it down the line in 6 months, maybe even yourself, a little background on what the project is about, maybe the client and the location would be some good things to put in here. And then you can move on. If you're working with details, you can go into the sheet index, but we're going to skip that. And basically everything else is set up here for us to start working on planting. So I'm going to say OK. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set my scale. So I'm going to have predetermined what kind of scale would be good for this project. You may want to go into your viewport, go into a layout space, start creating a layout space, and figure out which scale works. We have a great scale tool, and you need to set the scale before you start planting as well. So project and then scale, always. So I'm working in metric. If you're working imperial, you can just click on that and it will switch over, so you can choose your drawing units, your appropriate drawing units that match the units in your drawing, as well as the scale. For me in metric, I'm going to choose the one that I'm working at. So I'm working in meters at 1 to 150. And I'm going to say OK. And that sets up my drawing basically. So this project is ready to start adding some plants. So we're going to move on to that. And we are going to have some opportunities for questions coming up soon. So if you have any questions as we go along, feel free again to pop them into the question box, and as soon as we get to that point, Jeremiah will pull them up and we can kind of go over any questions that you may have. So moving on, we're going to go to the FX planting ribbon up here, and we're going to go over to our plant manager to start adding plants to our drawing. So the first thing you're going to see in your new drawing is that all of your fields are empty. So you're going to need to add plants into your drawing. And there's a few ways that you can do that. So first, I'm going to be in the trees. I'm going to start adding some trees into my project. And it's important to make sure the differences between trees, shrubs, shrub areas, and ground covers. We'll go over that, but we'll start with the trees. You can see we'll go into here and go to New to add a new plant to the project. And that brings up our master database over in LandFX. This is Wikibase, so it basically every plant in here has been a plant that somebody else has added. So pretty much everything is in here by now. Maybe if you're using a very rare plant, it might not be in here. But I'm going to go ahead and try and find a red maple in here. You can just start typing in here. You don't even need to type the full name. You can just start typing some of the first letters and click search, and it will pull up all of our plants that fit in that ACE. So you can go a little bit further to refine it, and it will refine the list so that you can quickly find the plant that you want to search from. It does search by common name, or sorry, botanical name. So that's what you're going to want to put in here for genus name. So I'm going to click in here, and then I'm going to go into my species and find the one that I want. For red maple, we're going to go all the way down. And there we go, it's in here. And we also have a lot of different varieties and cultivars available based on, again, plants that people have inputted into here and that we've verified and then added back to the database. So I'm going to add that plant to my project. And then say you don't see the plant that you want in here. Maybe you have a specialized version of red maple, a new product on the market maybe, that you really want to use and specify, and it's not in this list. All you need to do for that is just go to New Plant, and it will automatically fill in the fields that you've already selected. And now it's just going to ask you for the variety. So I'm going to go ahead and put in the variety, my specialized red maple, and just click OK, and it's going to populate into the list. It's only going to populate into the list for you. So this will be available for any user on your network and your support ID to pull from. So any user can come back in here and see that you've added. You can go ahead and click on that and just add it to the project, and that's also added. You can also add multiple at a time. Doesn't seem to be wanting to do it for me. Also on here, you have your plant data that you can go ahead and look in and refine based on the parameters of your region. You can see here you have what kind it is, your hardiness zones, seasons, water, everything in here. And we'll go back to that in a bit. You can see why that can be important. So I'm going to click done, and I'll be done here. And those two plants have now been added to the project. So there's another way that you can add plants to the project as well, and that's through the import button. So what I can do is click on the import button, and that will bring up all my other projects and any templates that I've created. And you can go ahead and just pick one, and whatever category you're in here, it will show all of the plants of that type in that project. So if I click on this, it won't show me any shrubs or shrub areas in that project. It will only show me the trees. And so these are all the trees from that other project. And on this one, I can go ahead and click all of them. I can control and click a few, and I can go ahead and add all of those to the project. And it's gone and done that, and I can click done, and they're all already added into the project. The benefit of using the import button is as opposed to always using the new button is great for setting up your first project and kind of moving from there, or bringing in a plant that you haven't used a lot in your project. Where it falls, like you won't want to use it too often though, because then you're going to be putting in all the same information for it, and we'll move into that on the information that you would need to set up for it. So you can just go into the plant that you've added and edit it to see all of the information added to that plant, and all of this information is going to show up and be available for you to display in your schedules, which we'll move on to a little later. But what you can do is go in here and just add in any remarks that you want about the plant. Maybe you want to say that it needs to be spring dug for this red maple. You can put in a cost. per plant, and that cost is totally based on what you want to put in there. Maybe it's, if you're design build, you can put in your cost in there and you don't need to show that to the client, but you can keep it for your own reference. Or you can put in, if you're a consultant for a client and want to show the client the full cost and a cost estimate, you can put in here for your supply in place cost that the client would expect in the bidding process. So that cost is completely up to you, and it will stay on this plant. And you can select a size, and we'll go into here. This is really cool. These are completely customizable. So I've already, in this preference set, filled in a lot of things in here that you may not see on your fresh installation that you've started. I've already started customizing this, and I definitely recommend that if you're interested in customizing this more, we'll go into some of the basics in planting right now. There's a lot of other things that you can customize in Land Effects, and we have some great webinars, one by Jake, that you can find on our webinar page, and also watch that one as well. And so I'll just pick out a size here, do a wire basket, and you can choose a symbol width. This is the symbol width that will be shown on your plan. So I'm going to put that at 7.5 meters, which I'm used to. If you're, again, if you're in inches or feet, this entire plant info dialog box will customize to those units. So here, instead of meters, you'll see feet. And I'll show you that as well, because it's really easy to switch back and forth too if you're a firm that goes back and forth between metric and imperial. So the last thing that you want to do on this plant, you can always, there are two last things. One, you can always customize the plant data at this spot as well, just for this plant, and that'll be important for more of your regional flavor to that plant. I'm going to hide that for now, and but now you can also pick a symbol, and we are installed with Land Effects. We have a lot of great symbols. I'm just going to click on this blank space, and that will bring up our symbol dialog box. So going through here, we have a lot of options for you to choose from already, and these are also customizable, and we have a great power tip and some documentation on how to customize these or add your own if you want to. We definitely recommend though using some of ours if you because that just gets you up and moving a lot faster, and we have a lot of options. So I'm going to go ahead and choose one of these. We also have a lot of evergreen, a little bit more descriptive and graphic if you want to go through those. Some more graphic deciduous tree symbols. I definitely recommend that you go through all of these. I've already set, you can see over here, some of my custom ones that I test out things with. But you can certainly go through here and find the one that suits you. I'm just going to choose a simple one though. We'll grab that one and say OK. And here you can also preemptively set symbols for other parts. So you can set symbol right here in the plant info dialog box for color and go through and search color. We'll go back to that, and also a Sketchup symbol. So we'll go back to those two a little later in the webinar though. Now we have a plant name. These are also, you can alter these if you want to. You can alter the plant code if you want to, although we definitely recommend kind of sticking with ours, or at least making sure that there's some sort of system to them. The 6-letter system is great for call outs because it makes it very clear what the plant is, even for somebody who may not be used to the plan. And also the 3-letter code as well. It's great for things like alphanumeric blocks, which you can kind of explore and use, and lots of great options for that, but completely customizable, and you can definitely alter that if you want to. So I'm just going to say OK. And you can see here it's updated in my project plants as well. And I'm going to go ahead and add some shrubs as well. So I can go into shrubs, I can go to new and find something in here, do a axis. There we go. And I'm just going to grab a green mound boxwood and add that to the project. And I can edit that as well. Put in any remarks, cost, a symbol. It'll bring up the shrub symbols this time. You can explore those and see which ones suit your needs for your shrubs. Just go through and grab that one. And again, color and symbol all the same. And you can see here that the sizes are a little different. So we're going to kind of backtrack a little bit and go into preferences so you can see how you can customize these sizes as well. So I'm going to press OK for now and exit. And I'm going to go over here in my FX planting ribbon still over to my planting preferences, and I'm going to click on that. If you don't see this symbol here, you can always drop it down and you can see you have a little bit more options in here. So I'm going to go ahead and go into these preferences in my planting. And here in planting preferences, you can see that you can choose between whether the codes that come in when you add a new plant go as a 6-letter code or a 2-letter code, and you can also choose if you want to capitalize that code. I tend to prefer going with the 6-letter and capitalize. It's a bit more graphic, at least in terms of what I'm used to and what I'm used to seeing in all other plants, so it's a little bit more recognizable. And again, it's easy to recognize exactly what plant that is, or at least put somebody in the ballpark. There's also a few options down here, which we'll go over in a little bit. And you can also choose your plant label. So here I've chosen this plant label. It's great. It has quantity, the code, and field 1 goes to whatever field you have in your plant sizes, and we'll do that in a sec. But in here you can see you have a lot of different options, and if your options look a little different, you can either get in contact with us, or we also have a great step-by-step guide on getting the new callouts. If you see something different than this, it just means that you may have installed a little while ago while we were using some of the old callouts, and we've updated them to make them a little bit more easy in terms of being customizable. All of these, again, are customizable. We have some great workflows on the website on how to customize these, including a great power tip. Totally recommend you check that out if you're, but we definitely also recommend maybe thinking about choosing one of the ones we have here, because again, really easy to get up and off the ground. So I can choose any of these that I want. I'm going to stick with this one here, though, that I chose before. That's label 8. And I'm going to press OK. And you can also choose an extension line. I like to choose a manual extension line for mine. You can choose whichever one you want, including auto, where you can choose what length that extension line is. If you're an imperial, this number will say inches. I'm going to stick with manual. Open label files is for customizing a label file, and again, you can watch that power tip for that advanced workflow. You can also choose different arrow styles, including a dot or a fat arrow if you really want to. I like sticking with this one. And another one, which we'll go over in a little bit, is label options. So this is a little bit more advanced. It's just if you're labeling in paper space, this kind of directs how that works. If it remains in model space when you're going through a viewport, or if it pops out into paper space. Okay, our other plant preferences are right here in our plant sizes. So these are the things that we saw, my size and container. I'm just on some cloud data, so sometimes some things like that will pop up. But if something like this does pop up for you ever, it's really a good idea to screenshot that and send it over to us. We'll just take that as a moment, and I'll say OK to that. But if you do ever get that, kind of screenshot that, and then go over here to Help, and you can go to Support, Technical Support, and it will ask you if you want to copy the drawing. That's usually a good idea, and it will pop you over to our ticket page. and that will probably pop up as soon as I click here. And that way you can let us know about that and see if there's anything that you can do with that. Great, so I'm going to go back into planting preferences and go to plant sizes, and I'll try not to click on anything, but you can see here that I've completely customized this. These, in fact, are different than what you would get out of the box, so that kind of shows you that these are completely customizable. You can add 3, you can add 4, you can add 6, as many descriptions as you want. A lot of people use these for things like in California, WUCOLS level. You can put that in here. You could put if you need to show on your schedule if a plant is drought tolerant or not, or if a plant is native or not, you can add that as a field in here. And that will, you can just put yes or no in these options, and that's customizable. You can add a new one, you can click any of these and edit them or delete it, all very flexible. You can go to each of these shrub areas and ground covers and customize each depending on that category. Okay, so I think now would be a really good time for a short break in terms of if there's any questions. Jeremiah, do we have any questions coming in?
We've definitely had a good number of questions, and Jake and I have been answering them, and I did want to definitely say that the most uh, prevailing little theme here is, every single one of these questions could also just be typed into the question box in the documentation on our website. And we are almost for every single question here, just referring to existing documentation pages. I think we pretty much have gotten them answered very well. We are the second prevailing theme that I'm seeing is a lot of customization questions. We're giving the answers to that. I understand people want to customize the call outs, the plant data, the plant width associated with a plant, those sorts of things. And so that is obviously a little more advanced than this webinar. We'll kind of get to some of those things. And Amanda, as you can see, pulled up the documentation of the website, where if you were to, for instance, type in something like the customizing the pin widths of blocks, I bet that would start to point you in the right there. The very first one is actually a very good place to start, is in converting from our default layer colors to your office layer colors. But nothing that I think merits kicking over to you, Amanda. So I'll let you kind of keep going, and Jake and I will kind of keep answering these, but we'll also queue up some for the next little intermission.
Okay, great. So we'll kind of move into here and start placing some plants now. And there's a few ways that you can do that. We've added a few new options, so it's really great for anybody watching this now to be able to see all the new options that you can use for placing plants very quickly. So as we go in here, you can just go into your plant manager again. And again, we had added a few plants in here that we can start to place. Now there's a few ways that you can do that. You can either click on a plant and then click place, and then just start placing it around the project. I'm going to right click to end that command, and it will pop the plant manager back up. Now what I can also do is I can now double click on a plant, and it will just automatically start the place command, and I can start placing plants. I'm going to right click again, and it will go back into here. Now the other cool feature that we have that I really like using is the dock, and that's down here at the bottom left, and I just click on that and it's going to dock it into my AutoCAD, just like my properties palette over here docks. So basically this has become a palette, and it will remain open, and it will even remain open as I switch into other drawings. It takes up a little bit of space, but it's also you can make it a little bit smaller or a little bit bigger depending on how much space you need. It will only go down to a minimum, but usually this is about as much space as you need to be able to see a project. And you can really quickly start, just double click, click, and start clicking things in, and then right click to end the command, and then go back in and double click something else. And that's important that you make sure that you always end the command when you're in the palette before you go back and start clicking on a new one, because I'll show you what happens if I just go and start clicking in here and then I don't end it and I go back in here and try and click that one, it's going to pop up a few things and not work properly. So that's important when you're using the dock. Always remember to end that command. You can also end a command by pressing escape. Okay, so those are kind of the ways to, the basic ways to place a plant. We also have some really cool methods for you to be able to place a plant. I'm going to go in here and grab a shrub, and I'll double click that and get that. And we have a new tool. It's been a few months now since we got it, and it's called the Plant Shotgun. And basically what that means is that you can place multiple plants all in one shot. So normally you can just click one, but if you go down here and go to your keyboard commands, and we'll just go back into that, and I'll type K for keyboard commands, and you'll see all of the options that you now have for placing a plant. So by clicking, just tapping any of these numbers, it will put you into shotgun mode, in where you can place that many number of plants. So one plant, two plants at a time, three plants at a time, and we'll show you how to kind of use that. And all of these other buttons also allow you to kind of manipulate that shotgun mode in terms of if you want to instead go into an immediate copy along a line or copy along an arc, change the crosshair angle, anything like that. So I'm going to press OK, and we're going to start that. So I'm still starting off at 1, but I can just tap 2 on my keyboard, and it lets me place those, and it will let me place them at any angle, or I can right click and it will go back to the 0 angle that I had before. If I go to say 5, let's go to 7, that's probably better. You can see I've got this nice grouping of 7 that I can place and angle. If I tap 7 again, it's going to go into a different orientation of 7. So here I've got more of a square orientation. If I tap it again, I'm going to go through all of the different orientations that we have saved. And basically we went through these and pretty much put in every orientation that you possibly could. If I go to 0, that's going to do 10. And you can see as I go between the numbers, I'm just typing the numbers, and it's actually staying in the same configuration. So if I go to 0 and then go to here, and then I type the numbers, it's going to stay in the same configuration. So as you start to use this, it becomes a little bit easier to be able to place plants in. As you get used to that shotgun mode, you have the potential of placing them even faster, depending on what you want to do. Especially this this donut mode that we have here is really, really handy in terms of you can just really quickly place a circle of any plant in your database. You can also go through different things. Let me go back to my keyboard commands. And if I press Q, oh, that's right, I don't have any other trees in here. I'm going to go to a tree so you can see that. And we'll go into 0 and for 10, and I'll go back into this. Okay, so what you can do is if you press the Q and E buttons, it will cycle, and you can see it highlighting over here. It's cycling between all of the plants in your list. And it won't circle around. You have to go back. So Q, I'm typing Q to go back through the list. And then you can also type W for wider to get a wider spacing. And I believe that goes up to 5 times. And you can type S for smaller to get a smaller spacing. And that will go up to about half size, which is this one. So that's half size, that's 3/4 size, and that's full size. So what you can do is really quickly, if you want a double size of this ring, I can go to double wide. That's 1.5, that's double, and I can click it and I'll accept that, and then I will click it again and I'll rotate it. There we go. And that worked in there. This one seemed to want to stay in the middle. But it's very quick to start placing your plants how you want them to form in your drawing without having to think too much about it. And that's basically what we're going towards with our planting tools, is being able to more and more and more be able to spend less time drafting and just more time that you have budgeted for your plan on the design aspect of it, instead of spending time trying to draw it out. So all of these great easy methods really help. Another method that we have in here, and I'll just put that in. I'm actually going to move over to my other slightly more prepared drawing with a few plants so you can see a few of our other tools that we have going. So here I've already kind of put all the plants in, and I still have a few more plants that I want to put into this plan. So for instance, maybe I want to put in some shrubs, just a ground cover among these shrubs in this area here. We have a great tool. If you go into our planting preferences, you can see it here. You can choose that ground covers exclude shrubs. And that's a really great tool to be able to use. Important thing to be able to use it, all shrubs need to be inside the ground cover. It won't calculate for any shrubs that are part way outside of the edge of the ground cover, but I'll go to a ground cover. And this is important. It needs, this tool works with ground covers only, not shrub areas. But I'll just place a ground cover in here, again double clicking on it, and you can see down here it's saying for ground covers when you're placing it, it's a little bit different than a regular plant. It wants you to you can either draw the boundary, or you can select a polyline, which you've already drawn, which I have. You can also do multiple if you want to do an island inside. And you can exclude shrubs. I've already got exclude shrubs selected, so I'm just going to select that, and you can see here that it's drawn an outline around all of the shrubs. It's drawn an outline around all of the shrubs just to basically exclude the ground covers from that area. So now when you run a schedule, that area won't show up in that area underneath the ground or underneath the shrub won't show up in your schedule. And I'll just quickly go over the draw method. So I'm going to go to that ground cover and I'm going to go to draw. So I can either type D, or if you have one of the newer versions of AutoCAD, you can just click on that. But I'll type D. And you can, it's basically saying start a point. So I can just start drawing. And I don't even need to end it. I can just right click and it will close it for me, and it will draw your shrub in. Now the important part, especially about shrub areas, remember at the beginning we set a scale to this drawing, and I set it to 1 to 150. If you're in Imperial, you'll set it to that. That scale determines the size of this hatch. So basically what we're doing is we're scaling this hatch so that it will always look the same no matter what scale it's shown at. So if I were to set the scale to, I'll just set it to 1 to 400 and say OK, and then I draw that same shrub area, you can see it's at a slightly different scale, and that's just so that if at 1 to 400 it will look the same as this at 1 to 200 on the actual sheet. But obviously in model space we're drawing 1 to 1, so it's showing different at 1 to 1. It's just scaling itself. So I'll set my scale back to 1 to 150. And we'll go over a few more tools that you can use while planting. You can use the array tool, which is really fun. And we'll go into that just up here. These are some of our other drafting tools that you can use. You'll notice that copy along line. We'll use that really quick. You can just, I'll actually use it in paint mode so you can see it. I'll go up here, and if you go into paint mode or into type V for copy along a line or C for copy along an arc, so I'll type V and it will ask me immediately what spacing I want. I usually put it a little bit tighter so they overlap. You can choose best fit or exact. I'll go with that and click OK. And then I'm going to click it in, and you can see it's immediately going along. And the new feature, it will continue, and you can just keep going. And right click to end. I can also go over here to a little bit of a clear spot, and I'll go back to copy along a line, and it will remember my last spacing, and we'll go along. And maybe I want to do an arc now, so I'm going to type C, and it will give me the option to start arcing around. So I can really quickly, it will continue arcing, or I can type V to go back to line, or I'm going to right click to go back to line. Great. Excellent. Okay, so I'm going to delete those so that they don't affect what we're doing later on. But you can see how you can really quickly start pulling those in. And another cool tool that we have is array. So going back to array, like I was talking about, you can click on triangular array. You also have the option of mirroring plants or rectangular array, and you can kind of test those out. I'll do a triangular array here so you can see it, and I'm going to click on this plant to array. And I can either, again, do best fit or exact. And it will ask you for a snap angle. That's what it's asking down here. Or I can right click to accept the horizontal as the snap angle. And quickly fill in this space in here with an array. So lots of methods to plant very quickly. Another method, if you've already started drawing some things in, but decided that you wanted to do a few more, you can always do the match plant tool. And that's up just in here. If you don't see that one and you see this instead, you can drop this down and grab your match plant and just start dropping them in. I just clicked on that plant after using the match plant tool. And I can also start tapping and go into my shotgun mode if I want to, and start planting that way. Okay. Some other tools that we have in our arsenal here. We have highlight plant, and I can just click on that and then click on any plant, and it will highlight all of the plants of that type in my entire drawing. Very handy tool. And right click to kind of turn that off. I can also look at any plant that I have in here. So maybe I'm wondering, oh, what plant did I actually place there? I can just click on it. That was with edit plant or block data, and that will bring up your plant info window where you can make any changes to anything in here. If you change something in here, an important note, like say I change, let's change this symbol into that instead. An important note is if you want to apply it to all or to just this plant. You can also change the plant entirely, and again you can either apply it to all or just this plant. So I'll apply all to that, and you can see it updates automatically all of those types of plants. Now I'm going to try a change plant, and I'm going to change this one. We'll go to block data, and I'm going to change this plant to, it pulls up the list of other trees in my drawing. I'm going to go with We'll just see what other plants I have in here to choose from. I'm going to change it to this one, so I'll just see what that one is. That's a Chanticleer pear. Great, so I will change that one over to a Chanticleer pear. And there it is. I'm just going to say OK. You can also add a new plant if you wanted to. And I'm going to uncheck Apply to All. And I'm going to say OK. It should change it. Just try that one more time. So when you do that on your end, it will work. I'm doing some testing in some cloud data on my end, and sometimes some of the things are just not quite working as well. That's all that it'll do. But what it will do on your end is it will ask you if you want which objects you want to apply that to. So it will apply it to the one that you chose, but then you can also choose a few more around and it will change all of those plants as well. If you do apply to all, it will change all of your tilia over to that Chanticleer pear or whatever combination that you were choosing. Okay, so the last one I want to, we're kind of moving on to a bit more presentation. So we've planted everything that we want to plant in here. And what we want to do is now we want to move into our layout space and start labeling. So what you can do is go into your label space or your layout space. And you can see I've already started to label in here, and it's really easy to do that. You can either label in model space. I'll do that in my other project. So again, labels depend on you setting your scale, so you definitely want to set that. All you need to do is go into our labels. You have a lot of different options to be able to label. Definitely recommend choosing all of them and trying them out. You can label a group, and that you just click it and grab them all and it will label. And again, that label is the right size for the scale that I've set to my drawing. You can also label with just a single one. So it's really quick that way in terms of just quickly labeling. You can also do what I've done here and label in paper space. So back into this drawing, I just click into my viewport, and my viewport is locked. That's important. You want to go into your viewport and look at your properties and make sure that this says display is locked and say yes. And then just go inside and you can label and it will pull it out into paper space if you have that setting checked. So remember we showed that a little earlier. In your planting preferences, you can choose if you label if you place a label within a viewport, if it moves to paper space or stays in model space. So that's a choice based on the workflow that you want to do. Now another really powerful tool is once you've done all of your labeling is this verify labels. So all I need to do is click on that and it will verify and see which plants may not have been labeled. Now before I do that, I'm just going to throw in kind of an intermediate level item here. I have a lot of plants in this plan and obviously not all of them have been labeled. Maybe I'm saving those for other drawing spaces. I only want to label these ones. I'm going to make a work area. And I'm going to do this a little bit quickly, but you can absolutely, there's great power tips and documentation on our website to learn how to do work areas a bit more thoroughly. So I'm going to say new work area, and I'm going to name it. And it's going to either do a first point, you can either define your work area by just starting to click around, or I can use select. So I will select, and I'll just select that line that I've already set. And you can see here it's given, it's set it onto a layer, and it's given it a title. So you want to keep those together. Those are non-plot, so you don't need to worry about them. And I'm going to go back into my paper space, and I'm just going to verify labels, and it's going to allow me to choose that work area. And I'm going to just choose that one, and now it will only check the labels within there. And you can see it already popped up. It said some of them are unlabeled, and those ones are circled in cyan. So if I say OK, I can see all of the plants in here are nice and brightly colored in cyan where they're not labeled. So in this one in particular, oh man, I meant to label this one. This label was supposed to cover all of those plants. Well, I can redefine that label. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to go to label. I'm going to go to my group label, and I'm going to click on this label. It's going to go into my viewport. If you're in model space, obviously you'll already be there, and it's allowing me to redefine first where that where my plants are that are within that group label. So I can redefine it, and I can reposition it. And it's replaced, and it's already updated back to the correct number of 10. Now if I run my verify labels again, and I'm just going to choose that work area again. Some of them are still unlabeled, but you can see that these ones are now not in cyan, so they're picked up. So as you go through, you can kind of go through all of that and make sure everything's good. Okay, so let's do some fun stuff. We're going to do a schedule. This is really, really easy. You can go to Plant Schedule over here, again in your FX planting ribbon. You have a lot of options. We have a great page so you can see what some of these options look like if you type Plant Schedule into that documentation page. You have a choice between drawing, table, or spreadsheet. Table is basically in AutoCAD. It just separates it out with lines, and spreadsheet will send it off to an Excel file. We'll do a drawing, and again, you can completely customize all of these. You can include remarks or not. You can include cost or not. You can alter all of these. You can choose to show a symbol instead of a code, or you can choose both for trees. For here, you can show botanical and common in one column, or you can show them in two and different orientations, and you can also show them over top of each other or just one or the other. So I'm going to go over here, and that switches it for all of them. And again, feel free to explore this. There's lots of great options for you to kind of pick and choose something that works for you. And I'm going to say OK, or actually I'm going to go back to this one just so it gets a little skinnier to keep the column width down. And I'm going to say OK. And I'm going to choose my work area again. And we'll just place that in. It's a little wider than I want, but I can go in and kind of tweak the settings, just how things show up to be able to get that width down. But you can see I have everything in here, all of the plants that I've placed, and it's also taken the name of my work area. And I've also got the quantity over here. It's an accurate count based on all of the plants in that work area, or if you're doing it for an overall of all the plants, all of my container, everything is in here, including just a little graphic of some of my shrub areas and ground covers. So that's really quick to do, and you can kind of play around with how you want your schedule to turn out. Now, I'm going to do a really quick color render. I'm going to delete that for now, and we're going to go into our presentation graphics. So in presentation graphics, you have a few options. We have plant outlines, which is very handy. I like to sometimes just outline the shrubs And I'm going to say OK. And that's going to go through my drawing. And what it's done, if I go back over to model space, you can see it's drawn a polyline around all of them and switched them to a gray layer. And I'll show you what that looks like when you plot. If I go to a preview, you can see it kind of groups them around a little bit more so that it's easy to kind of identify groups of plants. And I'll show you what that looked like before we did that. I can just go back to my plant outlines and turn them off, and it will go back to normal. And you can see what it looked like before. They were all black before. And I'm going to go back to my presentation graphics. This time I'm going to turn on my color render. And I've already set up a lot of these colors, but if you want to set any of them, it's really easy. All you need to do is click in them. And then we have a wide range of symbols for you to choose from. They're not all green. If you click in one of them, you can see all the color options in here. So there are thousands for you to choose from. There's some really cool ones that we've added recently, like some of these a little bit more marker style that you can choose from. Feel free to explore those and find the palette that really works for your style. I've already set up all of mine in here, and I'm going to say OK, and it's going to go through and it's going to turn on color. It's going to take a little while, but you'll see it work as in the background. It's first doing all of the shrub areas and ground covers, then it's doing the shrubs, then it's doing the trees, just so that they layer over top of each other just right. And it finished. So I'm going to go back to my layout space, and we'll be able to see what that looks like. I'll do a print preview of that. And you can see really quickly I'm starting to get into some presentation level graphics on this planting plan in terms of being able to show the client exactly what they're going to be able to get. So definitely this is a strong tool that you can play around with and find out exactly what works for you. You can choose on those shrub areas. I'll show you the options for those. I'll just go back to model space, and I'll do a block data on this shrub area that I placed. And under color, you can see you have all of these options. You also have flat color options as well as gradient color options. If you're having a lot of shrub areas, we recommend going to the flat because sometimes the gradients can overload your computer. If you have a lot of them, but you can kind of go in here and you can see they all have these options to put in hatches. And the last thing that I kind of wanted to show off was the ability, I'm just going to turn off color render, and that's going to put it back to my old symbols, is Sketchup. So I have already set up this, and we have some great webinars, basic, intermediate, and advanced on Sketchup, and a lot of great webinars by Daniel Tal on working in Sketchup. But once you set up your base, all you need to do is go over to your drawing and export it under Presentation Graphics in Sketchup, and you can learn a lot more about the options in here. I'm going to export my design, and I'm going to go in here and I'm going to import that design, and I can see all of my options. I've already chosen them. I'm going to go ahead and import it. It's going to take a little while in the background, but you can see through all of these basic tools that we've kind of gone through, the level of detail that you can show your client on your plan and how quickly that you can do that. We definitely recommend going in and setting up templates. So once you start setting up all of these plants and adding your color symbol to them and adding your SketchUp symbol to them and all of the options, you can then create a template use that project as a template and start importing those plants into other projects that you then start. And all of that data will come with it. So if you import one of these plants into another project, it will bring that SketchUp symbol that's assigned to it, it will bring that color symbol that's assigned to it, and it will bring all the other data that's assigned to it. So it's really quick to move along with your project. Okay, so as you can see, we've definitely got something going with a 3D image, being able to show that off to our client. And so that's basically wraps up everything that we wanted to talk about in this getting started with the planting tools. And I'll just throw it back over to Jeremiah if there were any other questions, maybe things that people wanted to go over.
Everybody loves, of course, the colorization in the SketchUp, which is obviously amazing. We did have a good one, which is maybe give people also a chance to type in some more questions. Only have one. If you want to jump back over to AutoCAD, very good request from Tamara. She just wanted to see once more how you could do a double row donut of plants with alternating the plant spacing. So I think she's implying, I guess, the use a plant shotgun donut shape with two different species is what I'm sort of assuming that's what she was after.
Sure, I'll go ahead and use that match tool, and I'll just grab a plant to use. And what I'm going to do is go into, I typed 0 to get 10. You can do this with any number, so we can do that with 6 as well. I'm going to keep tapping on 6 until I get that donut shape. And now I'm going to tap on W to make it wider. So I tapped it twice, and you can see down here it's telling you what it's doing. So it's saying it's spacing at 2, so that means 2 times spacing. So you can also do this at 1.5. I'll make this smaller, and we'll do it at 1.5 so that you get a little bit of overlap. And what I'm going to do is click it, and then I'm just going to right click, and I'm not going to move my mouse. And that shouldn't happen, but I'm going to click it again, and I'm going to rotate it this time. So all I'm doing is rotating, and click it again. I think it was it's just something with that right clicking in the same spot. I'll try that one more time. We'll do a match, and I'll grab one of these, do that over here. Maybe if I rotate it, that won't happen. Donut. Wider. Great. If I that. Yeah, it's that right click that's keeping it in the center. If you have something to snap to in the middle, it'll probably make it a little easier. There we go. So that's your double wide in terms of that. And you can also, of course, you could also make an interior row by just going smaller and clicking. It is the right click that's doing that. That'll be fixed.
Definitely.
Okay. Anything else come up in the meantime?
Otherwise, Jake and I were able to answer everybody's questions. Got a lot of people thanking you, and it was a really fantastic webinar. Reminding everyone, we did have 2 people complain of some sound issues. This has been recorded and will be posted. Of course, they can't hear me saying that, so I don't know why I'm bothering. But for anyone who can hear, you will be able to find this webinar posted on the website to watch it again. So otherwise, everybody have a great weekend.